seeking true inspiration and is timelier now more than ever. Through inspiration and action, this book provides the thirsty reader with a greater understanding of how we, as individuals, can positively affect change for ourselves and our collective humanity. I am Lois Herman, the author of Chronicles of Hope and the host of the Inspiring Hope radio show on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. You can find me at loisherman.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Herman.
Hello, and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I am your host, Lois Herman, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate everyday people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on truth, honesty, and integrity, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. I hope you are inspired by today's show. And today we have a very special show. Most of you know that I've published 2 Chronicles of Hope books that are based on channeled sessions with wise guides of the collective who are very concerned with our world and want us to wake up to what we can do to help heal our planet and ourselves. Their messages continue to inspire, and they give me guidance on a regular basis. I'm working steadily on the 3rd book in the series, and this time I'm sharing the sessions with you as I work on them. It has taken an enormous amount of time, energy, and finances to complete these books. You can read about them at chroniclesofhope.net and realize that these messages were meant for the world to wake up to a place of peace. And I am compelled to get them to you so that they may help you on your journey of hope. This incredible session with Archangel Michael happened a few years ago, and now as I'm working to prepare it for Book 3, I'm going to be joined in the studio by 2 amazing Team Hope members as we dive into the details of the session and discuss possible messages and meanings. In this unique session, my client Gary and I had met to do some healing work for each other, and Archangel Michael spontaneously shows up. Well, several months had passed since we'd been meeting for channeled sessions for the book, and the whole project had been placed on hold. Sadly, my consultant, Paul, had pulled away from the effort as the energy had become too intense for him. Gary and I were hesitant to continue until we received guidance on how to proceed. So Gary had been going through a series of serious health issues, and this session was intended as a personal healing session for him. And for me, I'd also been experiencing some health issues with some nasty rashes on my hands. And since we knew each of us would benefit from some healing energy work, we decided to get together for this healing session. This was never intended to be a channeling session. However, the beloved spirit of Archangel Michael spontaneously appeared. You are listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman at WSMN.live, 1590 AM or 95.3 FM. Please help us share these messages. Watch the videos at my YouTube channel or website, loisherman.com, and join our Hope community for support and inspiration at chroniclesofhope.net. So to begin, I want to give you a little background with Archangel Michael so you can understand the context of this session. Over 30 years ago, in the early 90s, my parish priest taught me to ask for Archangel Michael's protection. I was going through a very intense divorce with a man who I shall only describe as evil. This kind priest taught me how to wrap myself and my children in protective bubbles to shield us from the negative energy my ex would send in the form of dark curses. Quite the opposite of prayer. In the mid-90s, I was further encouraged to call on Archangel Michael on a regular basis by my wonderful spiritual mentor, Albert Marotta. While experiencing a powerful spirit clearing with Albert, I was able to block the energy from this extremely vile ex-husband who had been interfering energetically in my children's lives. With Archangel Michael's help, I learned to protect myself and my children on a daily basis. This subsequently led to the practice of doing spiritual energy clearing work for clients as well. I now train others in the techniques that I've learned over the many years of doing battle with the dark side. While doing a spiritual clearing for a well-known hypnotist in the early 2000s, Archangel Michael channeled through him and taught us this prayer that I say every day. Archangel Michael said, "You must always ask for protection first. Ask for protection, healing, and empowerment across all levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychic, social, professional, financial, and relational." And I have now added environmental, technological, educational, and political. He went on to say, "Pray that all should come together as one, as was intended by our Creator." Holding that prayer in my heart, Michael taught me the importance of daily spiritual hygiene. Join with me now as we create our protective bubble and establish our special sacred space. Imagine, if you will, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. If you're home and can close your eyes, please do so. And imagine a glowing ball of light in the center of your belly, your solar plexus, and glow that ball of light to where you feel the energy up to the top of your head and down to the tips of your toes. Just glow it. Bigger, brighter, bolder, and stronger, pushing out anything dark, negative, or anything that no longer serves you. Wrap it up in a ball of light and just set it off to the side. And now imagine standing in a magical waterfall of beautiful shimmering light. Allow that light to flow through you. Let it fill all of the nooks and crannies with whatever color of light your body is calling for right now. Allow yourself to glow with positive light energy. We are light beings after all. Now imagine this protective bubble, this thick, malleable, walled bubble around you that moves with you. It's a dynamic bubble going with you wherever you need to go. And imagine on the outside of this dynamic bubble is a shiny mirror coating, a soap bubble kind of sheen that deflects anything negative. Positive is absorbed within. Anything negative is transformed, transmuted, and sent back as a positive energy. And now imagine Saint Germain's violet flame surrounding you in a beautiful violet light of protection. And now, let's imagine creating our sacred space, whether it's your home, your office, your property. Imagine 4 columns or pillars of light, north, south, east, and west, diving deep into Mother Earth, extending far up to Father Sky. And in between each of these pillars or columns of light, I'd like you to add additional columns so that you have 8 total columns of light. Now imagine walls of light connecting the 8 columns. So you are standing in the middle of an octagon of light with a foundation of light underneath. And imagine filling the space with beautiful light from divine, Father Sky, divine source, universal energy. Fill with light, and imagine Mother Gaia sending light up from the earth so that you are completely surrounded and enveloped with beautiful healing light. And then invite into your sacred space the specific guardians of your choice. I always have Archangel Michael there. I also invite archangels, other archangels such as Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Samael, Azrael, Jophiel, Uriel. They each have their own area of expertise that they bring. I also invite Jesus, Mother Mary, Lady Nada, Mother Gaia, of course, and whomever you choose to have. Then imagine a protective dome over top, with a shiny mirror coating on top of that, and that St. Germain's violet flame. I set my every day with this intention to keep myself protected from external negative influences that are very real. I practice these exercises at the beginning of each day and before starting any group or team meeting. You can find them outlined in the Chronicles of Hope books. And if you'd like a handout of these exercises, please email me at info@loisherman.com. Today, we are experiencing a battle of good versus evil in our world. I have personally lived through evil and know firsthand the power that those with malintent can wield. I also know of the incredible power that comes with invoking light beings, our glorious guides and archangels. As you learn to converse with them on a daily basis, they become your friends. They are ever here for you. Yet you must learn to ask. This session with Archangel Michael is a conversation with the best friend a human could ever have. You are listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman at WSMN 1590 and 95.3 FM. And today, I am delighted to be joined in the studio and on the phone with two of my very best human friends. Christine Peck's in the studio, and on the line we have Kathy Kubacki. Both of these incredible Team Hope members are energy clearing and alignment specialists who are very familiar with the spiritual energies that they've been helping our team to clear this planet of dark energies. They've both been on the show before, and in our special show today, we are going to talk about the latest session that will be included in Book 3 of Chronicles of Hope. Kathy, are you there?
I sure am. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy to have you here, calling in from upstate New York, yes?
Yes, and I'm happy to be here.
We can't hear her. It's very faint. There we go. Yay. And then in the studio, Christine Peck is here. And hi, Christine. I'm glad to have you here today.
Hi, Lois. Hi, Kathy. It's lovely to be here.
Great. We're going to have fun because I want to talk about the session. I want to jump right into it.
Okay.
So both of you read it. I sent it to you and oh my gosh, you both got back to me within an hour. So Kathy, you were the first one back to me. Tell me, what was your first impression of this session with Archangel Michael?
My first impression is that it was so profound. It was so personal. And it just had such a lovely ring of truth to everything that's going on right now. Ask for help. Listen to the answers. He explained some things that are going on. I refer to the part where you were having some trouble with the book, and he said it's a minor detour, nothing more.
Right.
We have a tendency as humans to make mountains out of molehills.
And this is a classic example of conversations that you have in your heart and your mind with the unseen. And this was which I do all the time with these guys, but it was such a validating conversation. So I want to dig into some of the details in a second. Christine, what was your first impression?
Well, after I finished reading it, I wrote "wow" on the first page. That was the first thing I wrote, and I was touched by how personal the conversation was, and that Archangel Michael has a sense of humor and true, genuine love and personal relationship with you,
right,
which really rang through in this. And I just thought, what a gift to you, and what a gift for all of us as well. And also the timing, like Kathy says, is perfect for this.
Yeah, I feel there's a part of me that feels guilty that I haven't been sharing these, but it takes a while to integrate, even though the session was held 3 years ago, it takes a while to develop each session, to get it out there, and to create the books.
Right.
So this time, instead of going through that process, I'm putting the sessions out there so everybody can hear them. They will ultimately become a book. But this is perfectly timed.
It is perfectly timed.
Because we're dealing with some of the messages that he gave 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I would have maybe glossed over.
Right.
But now with my new awareness of what's happening in our world today, I'm like, holy cow, this is perfect for what we need to know right now.
Correct.
So let's talk about the session.
Okay.
So here I am. Gary shows up. We're just going to do a simple session. And both of you know when we do energy clearing, we wrap up whatever the negative is, and I just call Archangel Michael or Jesus or to come and take it, right?
Right.
I do that all the time.
Yep.
We do that all the time. Well, all of a sudden, Gary says, "Hello, Lois." We've never met before. And I'm like, oh, holy cannoli. This is the real dude. I was totally unprepared to talk with him. And yet, I talk with him all the time. I ask him for, advice. I ask him to give me a sign on this, or should I be doing that? And the book had gotten stalled. So I had been asking, what do we need to do? And so I basically, I asked him about helping Gary with his health. And Gary's a very powerful, wise person. And what Archangel Michael's response was really key for most of us who are on our own spiritual healing journey. He says he must walk his own path.
Yeah.
He knows what he needs to do. And
Yes.
so those of us who help others to heal, we have to give ourselves a pass and not expect that we can heal someone, because it's up to the person to do their own healing. So I'm going to pause there and you guys jump in. Kathy, Christine?
That's so true, because I do a little bit less healing work than I used to, but I always kind of took on the responsibility. Oh my God, I have to heal this person, when no, that's not how it works. I would just work harder and harder and harder, which I guess allowed the person to work less and less. So I learned this lesson before, but it was more profound seeing it in print.
Right. It's very empowering for those who, especially those who are heal workers, to recognize that. I mean, today we live in a society where everybody really gives their power away, whether they going to whatever it is that they're doing, they give their power away and say, take care of it, solve it for me. And this is helping those who are helping people on whatever journey it is to say, you have to want it too. There's work involved for you and doing all of this. So it was wonderful to see this as a message and a reminder to all of us, those who are on our own healing journey, to take responsibility for ourselves and those who are helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to dig for yourself the answers and not
Right.
take face value, because many people have been taught, well, just turn to the doctor for a pill or something. And that's basically a quick fix.
Right.
We must do our own healing journey. We must look for the answers in various different places. And we're all learning that right now.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the next question, there were lots of little nuggets in this conversation.
Yeah.
We're just having a conversation here. So I was very sad about my partner, Paul, leaving. And I asked him, is there anything we can do to help? And Archangel said, not without his permission. We can't fix another person. They have to give permission. We cannot interfere with another. And what was interesting, he said that he's a son of Gaia, but despite the number of incarnations he's had, they've all been on Earth. So he lacks scope and breadth, and he could get a little bit bored with his series of existences. He can choose any existence he likes, but he does not need to return to Earth each time. Perhaps it would be better for him if he did not. So to me, now that I look at this, I realize I've moved like 30 times in my life. I've done a lot of travel. I thought that caused me to be unstable because I was constantly moving. However, it did give me more breadth and scope. I've seen people in other countries. I can relate to people with different nationalities because I have lived abroad.
Right.
And it gives me a wider appreciation for the fact that we truly are the same all throughout. But it gives me also a real loyalty for all that we hold dear in our country and in our family units right now.
Right. That's very true.
Yes.
It also, it's another way of realizing that people have whatever their perception of their own reality is just what their experiences are based on. So if you have broader experiences, your reality is able to absorb a lot more and to communicate better and to understand others. And that's helpful for those working with someone if they have a very limited experience themselves personally. It's easier to understand where that person is coming from as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Kathy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, being the person that I even live in the house I grew up in, but I think I must have at least some sort of awareness of our multidimensional nature, because I always wanted to understand genuinely from my heart how other people think and why the way they feel and always ask those questions, even though I got yelled at when I was a kid because of my business. But I was curious, and I made friends with everybody as a little kid because I genuinely wanted to know and understand them.
And I think that the key word is curious.
Yeah.
We must stay curious, because once we decide that we know everything, boom, that stops. That locks down information. It locks down our ability to think beyond, to expand our awareness. There's so much to learn in this planet we live on.
That's very true.
Yes.
So I asked him about an energy that seemed to gather outside of my office in and around the hallway. And we have one of the practitioners in the office across the hall had a little dog, Ruby, who is a sweet, sweet little dog. She loved everyone, but she suddenly became very afraid to go in the elevator. And so I asked him about it, and he just kind of laughed. He says, those are just spirits passing through. There's nothing dangerous there. A lot happens in this building, and the spirits concentrate on what you could think of as the simplest path between heaven and earth. That would be the stairs and the elevators. This isn't this is not uncommon. They'll pass. So that made perfect sense to me, and I asked if he could help to clear the spirits, and with a wave of his hand, boom, they're gone. All I had to do was ask. He will not do it if I don't ask. That's the key.
Yeah.
And the other really important thing with this is that animals, our precious animals, are so sensitive to spiritual awareness. They're very sensitive. And I have a fun story to share, but Kathy, you also have a story to share. And Christine, you work with animals. Your husband works with animals. He does chiropractic adjustments on animals. So our animals are people too, and they're very much more sensitive than we give them credit for. So Kathy, why don't you tell us your animal story?
So I have a little teeny tiny Maltese poodle, and Teddy. She was very sick about 3 years ago, very sick. She had pancreatitis, liver failure, and Archangel Michael came in via a friend of mine who works closely. So she asked Archangel Michael to come in and check on Teddy, and she told me what was going on, and I was able to visualize. And Archangel Michael knelt in front of this tiny dog who, on a good day weighs 6 pounds. She was down to like 4 pounds and change. And he sat there with her little face in his hand and explained to her it wasn't her time. And she needed to stay because this dog was just hovering between life and death. And she took a sharp turn for the better, and she's been great ever since.
Wow.
It's amazing.
But it is amazing. Her visualization of him, though, was even funnier, which speaks to the sense of humor that you talked about, because as she's describing him to me, he's got on his long white robes, and then he bends over, and you could see his jeans and loafers underneath.
Yeah, and some people, when they describe seeing Archangel Michael, some of them see him as just like a pillar of light, and others see him like with armor on and a sword, and, so it just depends on their perception, and that's okay. Yeah.
He came in a way that wouldn't frighten this little
Right.
bitty dog that was
Exactly.
sick and scared.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting story about an animal, a spirit of an animal, and we do the spirit energy clearing work. And when I was learning with a group of people, I was living in a house that had with these gentlemen, and they had a big old docile black lab. Most of you know who've been around labs know how just gentle energy they are. Well, this dog had developed a tick in his head, kept all of a sudden just jerking his head and was getting very irritable, which was not his typical personality. And the doctors that was unexplained. They couldn't figure out why. The guys were talking about possibly having to put the dog down. Well, here we were learning, and when we learn this kind of stuff, we practice on each other. Well, we practiced on each other, and we ran out of people to practice on, so we decided, let's check on the dog. So, lo and behold, this big old black lab had the spirit of a little chihuahua nipping around his head. And the dog just kept shaking his head to get rid of this chihuahua. And it was, we're thinking, what do we need to do? So at the time, coming from a place of spirituality, we called on St. Francis, who sent a little boy with a beagle. And the beagle helped the little chihuahua into the light. And then the beagle came back and stayed with the lab as his friend, a spirit friend. And a couple days later, the guys asked me, so would you guys do something to the dog? And I said, why? And he said, well, all of the behavior stopped. He's back to his sweet old self, calm and gentle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, isn't that interesting?
That's very cool.
Oh, it was a great story. Albert tells the story to this day because it happened in his class.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
So-
awesome.
And I know, Christine, as working with chiropractic, a lot of people think, oh, that's all hooey. But
Right.
I actually saw a dog in the parking lot that the woman had to lift out of the car.
Right.
And Dr. Jim adjusted the dog, and then the dog started walking all around the parking lot.
That is so true. So true. Our pets respond to chiropractic care so much faster than our humans who come to see us, our practice members, because they don't have all these preconceived ideas in their head of, is this going to work? I'm not sure. What are they doing? It's not that much. So they just trust. They have this inherent trust. And when the nerve system is released and free to communicate, their body can heal. And it's just, it's magical to witness and
It
to
is.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been told that we right now have our pets with us.
Right.
They were sent to help and keep us as companions during this really stressful time in our world.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, we have cats and I don't know what we would do without them.
Yeah.
They are complete companions, entertainment, and nurturers.
Yes.
And they're teaching us how to be a little bit more zen-like. Cat naps constantly, So moving on, the next, and again, these are a bunch of little snippets that when you really dissect them, there's a lot of nuggets in here. So, I was not prepared to ask Archangel Michael any really major questions, but I talked to him all the time, and I'd been planning on moving my office space. And because, when we were thinking about having these audiences, it was going to be more expensive. And so I had been talking to him, and he says, yes, you must do this. And he said, by opening the physical space in which you work, you are also open to the spiritual space. The act of moving to something larger is a physical manifestation of your own desire to move into a larger spiritual self. So that was very profound, with him giving a strong affirmation, yes, this is a good thing. So I went ahead and moved, and my business flourished, and I was doing trainings and everything in the business. And then, of course, last year with COVID, I shut it down.
Yeah.
Actually, I moved it to home, which makes more sense for me. And now I'm doing sessions from home and via Zoom, and I love it. But the message from him was that affirmation of what I needed at that time. And the stubbornness in me kept wanting to push it away. But he was able to say, yeah, you're not just hearing that from me, you're hearing it from the rest of us too. Like,
Yeah.
so we have to be open to hear, because each of us has changed over this past year, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was a really important message, too, because often we are in prayer and we ask for things, or we ask for guidance, or we ask for help, but we don't always take the time to pause and listen to what the guidance coming back to us might be.
And we don't trust it, because
And
I
we-
was hearing the
right.
messages, but I'm thinking, well, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
The analytical, logical me gets in the way, and
Right.
but it was just nice to have that strong affirmation.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, you made a big change this past year too, didn't you?
I did. I closed my practice with a lot more space, and my poor husband, because I just came home from work one day in June and said, okay, we're going to turn the garage into workspace, build 2 sheds to hold the stuff in the garage. We're going to have this done by the end of August. And, I'll take money out of my retirement. And he just stood there looking at me for a second and shrugged his shoulders. Is that what you want? Yes, it is. Okay.
All right.
And it all happened
Good man.
exactly that way.
My husband says, recognize correct answer when told.
So you're talking about analytical, and I have to laugh because he's the analytical half of this relationship.
Yes.
I'm the one that dreams up the intangible and says, but this is what we're going to make happen.
Yeah.
And it does.
And it does.
Yeah.
And by what's interesting is our perception of the time, because now you and I have both moved our practices to home, which means
Mm-hmm.
that we've opened to the whole world.
Yeah.
We're doing things via the internet. We're doing things via Zoom. And we now have expanded to the world, not just one small physical space, right?
It's the truth. So
Mhm.
even though it might be physically smaller, it's more expansive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then the next little bit here, I'm talking to him about, well, I've been asked to do this demonstration, a public demonstration on the spirit clearing work that I do. And should I do this? I feel guilty. I don't want to make them a spectacle, but I want to teach people how important it is to help these spirits transition into the light. A lot of people attend these ghost sighting parties and, oh my God, the house is haunted. Let's go. And, basically you're poking fun at the spirits, and that just hurts my heart.
Right.
So I wanted to make that a point, make the point. And he actually said, that's okay. Everything you do comes from a place of honor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how other people view it is determined by their nature. And it's really important that whenever we do something, we come from that place of honesty, honor, and integrity.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what was interesting?
And it is.
Go ahead.
Of intent.
Kathy, we can barely hear you.
It's good.
Are you on a speakerphone, or are you on?
Yep, I'm on speaker.
No,
Want
can
me
you
to
come
switch
off
it?
of a speakerphone, because we can hardly hear you? And just for this moment, just speak right into the phone. That would be really beneficial. Because you had.
Okay, is that better?
Oh, much better.
Much better,
Much better.
yeah.
Thank you. So,
Perfect.
you had also talked about, when we were talking about this the other day, about making things into, you had a fascinating little clip about making things into a show. We need to take this kind of work seriously.
I was asked to go on a radio show talking about, doing psychic readings. And I'm just not a fan of, to me, this is sacred work.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when she asked me that, no, and we can have people call in and blah, 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 blah. And it's great if that's your thing. But for me, that's 2 rides short of a carnival. That's my wisecrack about that, because this isn't a spectator sport. It's personal, serious work to me.
You're exactly right. And I love your humor.
Yeah.
Thank you. So he went on to say that faith sustains many, but people need evidence that they might not accept. Most people are somewhere in between and ambivalent. And he said, unfortunately, a vast number of people on earth are that way today. They just don't seem to care anymore. And that was a really powerful statement, because that's what I find is people are not coming from that place of true caring for each other, for the planet, for humanity, for their children, for children's children. And this is, this level of ambivalence is a challenge. And that's one of the things that, what can we do to create a sense of wake up, people, care?
Mm-hmm.
When I read that line, my first thought was that this is really a sad commentary,
Mm-hmm.
But I then took it in my heart further and thought, okay, we have to recognize where we're at to be able to bring more healing, and seeing that this is really where it is, that so many people are ambivalent, and especially our young,
Mm-hmm.
those who have been lost in the shuffle of our high-tech world and everything happening. So my first response was of sadness, and then it turned into, okay, recognizing a problem, then you can go about trying to solve it and coming up with solutions.
That's exactly right,
That's
Christine.
perfect.
And I know there was a book that you referenced, Kathy, Open Your Mind to Change. Is that
Yes.
to help people to start to pay attention to what they need to do, what we need to care about in this world? And it's not about money. It's caring
No, it isn't.
about our connection with the divine.
It really is. And it brings you back to remember being a little kid and every day was magical. And you woke up full of hope and possibilities, and dandelions weren't weeds. They were these magical yellow flowers that, you could reach. I mean, we had rose bushes, but they bit. I love dandelions.
Yes.
You know?
We used to make the little dandelion crowns, that we
and the
would,
necklaces.
Yes.
yeah. Or we would do the, do you like butter, by putting the dandelion under
Right.
your chin. It was just
Yes.
fun, simple fun.
Yeah.
And that's what, when talking about the children, that especially the young people who don't seem to have a spiritual interest or motivation, and there is no rite of passage. I use that word, and he really picked up on that, and he said for most of humanity's existence in past civilizations, there was always the rite of passage. The Jewish people still have their bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs for their young, the day in which they become men and women. And he went on to say newer generations, most particularly, need something in which to believe. But it has to be presented to them differently than it has been to previous generations. People do not respond to things in the same way that they have for most of history. He says it is not so much that they do not care, but they have nothing for which to care. They have no faith at all. They do not have a belief. And he said technology plays a large part in that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
It does.
profound.
Yeah. That was very profound.
Yeah. Yes. Because people have lost a belief in anything outside of themselves or making money or this, and I think that people need to get quiet and think about what is important. Why are you here? What is it that we're supposed to do?
And that's so true. When money became God,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of displaced everyone, because children are so much more inherently close to source or God energy than adults, but yet nobody actually sits down and listens to them.
You're right. Children come in with that connection, then it gets lost over time. And that's one of the things that he says. Everybody talks about social media as though it has brought people together, when in fact it has done the exact opposite. They need an inspiration. We would hope this book might help to serve that. So, this was 3 years ago. Now, through the COVID situation, through the political drama, we are seeing the division in social media. I have backed off on Facebook because I don't want to see these people who are on their rants. It is amazing how many people hide behind social media. They say things that they would never say to someone to their face.
To their face, right.
And they
Right.
just
Absolutely.
make these horrible statements.
Right.
And they don't realize how harmful that is.
Right. And cruel and bullying. And it always makes me think of the young ones, our teenagers who are under so much peer pressure, and even younger, where their friends will say, friends, and I put that in air quotes, may say very cruel things about that person in a very public way, which if we're all gathering in actual gatherings, that may not come out. Or if there was a discussion to be had, it would be have one-on-one, and it would be worked out in a very different way, rather than public humiliation and anger and rage that comes through in the social media
Yeah,
world.
people are using the social
Yeah.
media as an opportunity to vent without
Right.
realizing how much harm they are doing
Right.
for themselves
Right.
and for other people.
Right.
Because there are people now that I don't even want to listen to that have gone on these rants.
No.
I've blocked them. I that's not my energy. I want to listen to inspiring things. I do want to hear what's really going on, not what the media tells us.
Right.
I want to know about
Right.
the human trafficking. I want to know about the pain that's going on in our world and what I can do to help, instead of insulating myself and living in my spiritual bubble, because spirituality is not just rainbows and butterflies. It is about
No.
truly knowing what is going on, staying grounded and expanded, and being able to help by way of helping energetically, spiritually, sending beautiful healing light, protecting those that are vulnerable. There's a very
Yes.
real battle going on.
That's
But
very
social
true.
media for the young is similar to what, like the Roman gladiators? You send them in to fight for the death, and only the harshest, biggest, meanest win.
And everybody stands around and cheers. It's
Right.
Yes.
horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think there was a saying was it Einstein that, do you
Yeah.
have that quote?
I actually did find that
oh,
quote.
good. Will you share that, Christine?
Yeah, absolutely. This was from Albert Einstein. It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very
Yes.
true.
Wow.
And the
That is-
guides have said that multiple times.
Right.
Technology needs to be a tool we use and not become our, artificial intelligence. I mean, heck, we
Right.
can go way down that rabbit hole.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we need to get back to the true heart-to-heart humanity and why we are here, really working with the land and with each other. And he actually says, I would suggest a concentration on connecting them to nature.
Yeah.
The traditional religions are too vague. There is not enough hope that praying to a God will produce any kind of change. Belief in a single God is less common than it was a generation ago, and that's not a problem, as there is no single God, but your mother is earth. And I found that very powerful,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
we need to get our young
Right.
back into the dandelions, the
Yeah.
clouds,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
them.
What Kathy was talking about,
Yes.
playing out in the fields and just being. And, we talked about this yesterday, where you could just go outside and lay on the grass and look up at the clouds, and then make, what does that cloud represent to you? What picture is coming across? And just sharing with your friends. No, I see this. No, I see that. And that's being in nature. That's connecting.
And
That's,
that has been,
yeah,
in part, destroyed by the fear of ticks
right.
up in New England.
Right.
And now that we're hearing that,
Mhm.
Gates is talking about weaponizing or mosquitoes
Right.
to carry a vaccine, and we'd heard rumors that ticks was sort
Were
of a biochemical
weaponized,
weapon, and now I'm really wondering if that is true.
Yeah.
Because when
Yeah.
you read about the stuff that was going on behind the scenes
Yeah.
to truly destroy the energy of the connection with the divine in humans,
Right.
it's just unconscionable and incredible.
Right.
So
It is.
we need to move beyond this, get back to our native roots, and really connect with one another. He went on to say the best thing you can do is to bring back the beliefs of the Native Americans, and because their beliefs are so much closer to the reality of the universe, their sense of spirit, their belief in all things, even if they do not move, are still living things. Everything on earth is part of the earth, so everything on earth is alive. It will strengthen their spirits to know this, and it is not just their spirits that are weak. So I'm thinking about crystals. Kathy, oh my gosh, I wear this.
Yeah.
You know, Christine's got your Lemurian sea
I have my
crystal,
crystal on today,
and I have my
too.
Andara on. These are rocks,
Yeah.
but they're crystals, and they have an energy,
Yeah.
right?
And you can palpably feel it.
Yeah.
If you're tapped in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they do. And those were, healing tools of the past. And, they give off a certain, I have them everywhere, but they give off a certain energy, and it just feels good. And I feel like they're a buffer, or they work to absorb negative energy in our space. And it feels nice. You can feel it.
Yes. So those of us who work with crystals or have crystals, many of us have our favorite crystals.
Right.
Amber can be used for protection against the EMF coming from your computer. So we can use the crystals in a positive way. Those of us who are using the internet, we're on the internet a lot, we're using it as a tool, but we also have to protect ourselves from the exposure and from the toxic exposure. And we use the elements of earth.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there are many different
Yeah.
types of crystals and stones that we can use to protect from the EMF.
And then to remember to take all of those crystals, and when it's a full moon, have them be able to be cleared by the essence of the full moon, and you can feel the difference of before they get set out for clearing, after they've been cleared.
I need to do a better job of that.
Yeah, yeah. I love it when I know a full moon's coming up. Okay, I line everybody up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
they're all grateful for you.
Yeah.
Yes. So, this next statement was really profound, and I want to jump into this. There is a generation born to this earth that is physically not as strong as the previous generation. This is due in large part to the poisoning of the earth. Elderly people did not grow up with this. It has been introduced to them and has made them sick, but not systemically ill. The newer generation is growing up with mercury, lead, cadmium as part of their physical makeup, and the human body is not meant to deal with those elements. It is incapable of flushing them out on its own. There is no simple solution to that particular problem. Even if you clean up the pollution of the earth, it is still stuck in people's bodies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here we are
Yeah.
with the food that we eat, the air, the aluminum in our deodorants, the fluoride in our toothpaste. That stuff is all getting stuck in our bodies. And then there's, of course, down the whole path of, we're injecting aluminum and mercury into our children via vaccines.
Right.
And then we're dealing now with this. I'm not going to call it a vaccine because it's an injection of toxic chemicals
Right.
into our body.
Right.
And it's going to cause some problems depending upon the person. There is so much research out there already. There are so many medical professionals who are standing up and saying, be aware of what you're injecting in your body. And yet it's all being censored, which is just hurts my heart, makes me sick that we are looking at
Agreed.
this
Yeah.
censorship that's going on right now.
Yeah. No, they're not letting
Yeah.
what I believe to be the truth come out, and for people to make an educated decision on what they're going to do going forward. And it's very sad. It's just
Well, it is sad, and they've weaponized the word virus. Christine, you know better than I do that we have all kinds of viruses going on in our body at any given moment. And it doesn't mean that we're going to die from them. Some of them are beneficial.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of different diseases that we're dealing with now have been proven to come from toxic exposures. And that's what he said about my hands. I had been exposed, and I have, based on using chemical stripper in my house for, as I was restoring houses for years. And my work in ultrasound, I have my hands in glutaraldehyde. My hands had been exposed to toxins, and he actually pulled them out. Yeah. But what he said also, we were talking about the fact that certain chemicals lodge in the brain and interrupt the connection with the pineal gland. Yeah. The pineal is the connection with the divine. That is the third eye, the God gene, if you will. That's our connection. And as that gets calcified based on all these chemicals in our body, then we have Alzheimer's. Right. We have dementia. We have the people who have, I want to say no soul, that are heartless. There have been many studies that have proven that the pineal gland has become calcified by this chemical infusion in our body that's not natural.
Right? Yes. And our body doesn't have a way to excrete it, to release it, so it builds up.
No.
But we've come up with a way.
We have.
So I want to. We really need to take this up a second session because oh my God, there's so much more to talk about. But this is really, really pivotal right now. We have a group that meets regularly that we're doing clearing for our precious planet. And one of the questions that we posed in based on this session, we posed to Mother Gaia because he says that the earth is capable of removing from the body those things that are part of the earth and belong in the earth, but do not belong in the body. You cannot clear lead out of your system on your own, but the earth is capable of reabsorbing it. It belongs in the earth, not in you, and the spirits of the earth can help. The same for the spirits of the sky and water. They can help purify you, but you have to understand that they exist, respect them, and ask for them to help. So we are teamed at a journey, and one of the intentions was to find out if there was something we could do to flush our bodies. And Christine does an amazing journey. So you've got 1 minute, Christine.
Okay. All right. I'll try and go fast.
Just a synopsis of what Mother Gaia said.
Basically, in this vision, I saw Mother Gaia as just beautiful. And she was tall, imposing, enormous, loving, all at the same time. She appeared almost tree-like with some human features, sense of strength that was fire-like. Anyway, she was just beautiful. There was such love. And when I reset my intentions, her initial reply was, well, it's about time you're asking for my help.
We don't ask.
She spoke with both love and a sense of humor. So the vision from Mother Gaia unfolded in 3 parts. The 3 parts were specifically described at the beginning of our journey. So the first group included all of those who are awake, aware, the star seeds, healers, light workers, and light warriors.
1 minute left.
Okay. So those who understand the process simply need to ask and go into whatever part of nature connects to them, and they will be detoxed. And it will all go back to Mother Earth. The second group includes those who have yet to awaken and would have a conceptually hard time asking Mother Gaia for assistance. And what they were told is they need to believe the philosophies of Native Americans.
So I'm going to have to pause, Christine.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Christine and Kathy. Oh my gosh, we're going to need to do this again because there was more to the session. You can read the session at chroniclesofhope.net, and we'll be able to listen to this on the website as well. Okay. So thank you all for being here. Thank you again, my dear friends, for this week. Look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day.